morning, church. How are we doing today? Happy Mother's Day to all of our mothers. It's great to have you here, and we celebrate you today. Usually it's sunny in Denver. My wife likes the rain and the gloom. She misses that from the Midwest, so you can blame her for this happening on Mother's Day. She's one of God's favorite mothers, obviously. And so, we're going to talk a little bit today about not compartmentalizing our beliefs, our service, our kind of walk with God. And, moms are actually pretty good at this, not compartmentalizing their motherhood. Kind of wherever they go, once they become a mom, they are a mom. They see mom things everywhere, and they can't stop being a mom. This last week, we went down to Albuquerque to visit my son who goes to school there. His girlfriend was graduating from UNM. Actually, she was the teen intern here last year, McKenna. So she was graduating, and so we went down there, and there was a graduation party at my son. My son has a house with three other guys, and we go over there, and they're all doing their college graduation things, behaviors, risky things, climbing things, throwing things at one another, wrestling, all that sort of stuff. At one point, they all decided to go up on the roof of the house, and my wife, who can't stop being a mom, and Isaiah wasn't even one of the people going up there. She's just seeing the kids up on the roof, and everything within her wants to go, guys, maybe come down from the roof, or just if you're going to be up there, sit down. Just sit down. You don't need to run around up on the roof. And it's hard for her, even when it's not her kids, to stop being a mom. Like wherever you go, you are a mom, and moms kind of have this uncanny ability to know something's going on. I don't know if you've experienced this with your mom, but there's like a radar. There's like a mom radar that happens. So if you do something that you're not supposed to be doing, there's something in their radar that goes off. They just sense it. They know that something is going on. And moms are amazing that way. I remember when I was studying the Bible, I did not want to become a Christian. My girlfriend to become a Christian. I was only studying the Bible because she said she was going to break up with me if I did not become a Christian. And I hated everything about it. I didn't like church. I didn't like studying the Bible. I didn't like the Christians themselves. I kind of just wanted to disappear altogether. And for a year, my mom, who worked at Duke University, was begging me to transfer schools from Indiana University to go to Duke. Now, I could never get into Duke University with my grades, but because of my mom, and she worked there and she was in some research department, she could get me in. And I was like, no, I don't want to go. But then when I started studying the Bible, I was like, I'm getting out of here. And so I called my mom up and I said, Mom, I'm ready. I'll pack up my stuff and I'll go to Duke. And she just and she's not even looking at me. I'm on the phone with her. And she just goes, what's going on? I was like, Mom, it doesn't matter. Like that, none of that matters. You wanted me at Duke. I'm ready to go. And she's like, no. You tell me what's going on. What is going on here? What does Megan think of this? I was like, Mom, Megan's not a part of this decision. And then she's like, no, tell me what's going on. I explained everything that was going on. And she's like, no, you're not going to come to Duke. You need to stay there and work this whole thing out. Moms are amazing. They sense when things are wrong. They never stop being a mom. They don't compartmentalize their motherhood. And this is what I want to talk about today as it engages our own Christianity. Go ahead and open your Bibles to Luke chapter 10. We cannot take our belief system. We can't take our faith and put it into neat little boxes that we open up at different points throughout the day or throughout the week. Luke 10, verse 25, this is a very famous parable about the Good Samaritan, but I want to put a little bit of context to it. In verse 25, it says, on one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is written in the law, he replied. How do you read it? He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself. You've answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? Jesus could really give a master class on dealing with conflict-oriented human beings, okay? He was always surrounded by people who were testing him and pushing him and resisting him and, trying to question his motives, all of that. People who are just difficult human beings. And what's amazing is that he always allowed those people to speak their mind. He did not shut that voice down. He welcomed their questions, all right? Now, something that Jesus does really well is that when that person is testing him, when that person is questioning him, he always answers, not always, but oftentimes he answers a question with a question. He makes them answer their own question first, oftentimes. You know, later in 3rd, 4th century rabbinical Judaism, this becomes one of the art forms of becoming a rabbi, is that you are good at answering questions with questions. You know, so if there was such a thing as a rabbi mathematician who would ask you, what's 2 plus 2, your answer might be, what is 8 minus 4? All right, the answer is the question. It's the same thing, okay? Jesus was already very good at this, all right? He was starting this kind of art form of rhetoric with answering questions with questions. It forced people to put their own views on the line. It's very easy to criticize. It's very easy to express displeasure. It's very difficult to express that and at the same time put your own opinion out there for others to view, okay? And that's what Jesus was doing here. But the man answered correctly. He just repeated to Jesus what the law said, all right? What was written in the Old Testament law. Jesus said, yeah, it's still the same answer. Love the Lord, love your neighbor. He goes, if you do that, you will inherit eternal life. Now, what's interesting about the way that Jesus answers is that he does not assume the man is already doing this. All right, now, everybody else looking at an expert in the law, they would have assumed, well, this man is already doing this. Jesus does not make that assumption in the way he answers the question. He tells him, so go and start doing this, and you'll be fine. And so that's why the guy then answers in a way to justify himself. He goes, well, wait, I am doing this. But let me ask you, what does it mean to be a neighbor in the first place? And that was a mistake. Many of the Jewish teachers define the term neighbor very narrowly. They wanted to put God's will into this small, little, manageable box, all right? A tiny compartment that they could put off to the side and pull back out whenever they needed to. Now, Jesus' parable isn't a response to the man's first question of what must I do to inherit eternal life. Jesus' parable is in response to the man's desire to justify himself by compartmentalizing God's will into this small, inconsequential, and easily managed box. The box in the religious teacher's paradigm was likely something like this. My neighbor is someone that I'm comfortable with. So Jesus tells the man a story in order to better answer this question. So in verse 30, it says this. In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. You just got to know that if you ask a question and Jesus begins telling a story, you're in trouble. You're about to get discipled. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road. When he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came to where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he took the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense that you may have. Which of these do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert of the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. He couldn't even say the Samaritan. Couldn't even utter the word. He goes, the man who had mercy on him. And then Jesus says, now go do likewise. This would have been a very controversial little parable for the Jews to hear, because the Jews and Samaritans are ancient relatives, ancient enemies. They have both done innumerable cruelties to one another. It's not like the Jews were the only guilty ones. The Samaritans were equally as cruel, sometimes even more cruel to the Jews. There is a lot of hatred and a lot of injury and a lot of hurt between these two groups. The Samaritans used to be Jews. They were part of the 10 tribes that were taken over by the Assyrians and then assimilated by that group. people who had lost parts of their religion, who had an amalgamation of Jewish religion and pagan religion all at the same time, all right? And they hated, in many ways, the Samaritans hated the Jews because God protected the southern kingdom for so much longer, all right? That's where the temple was. The Jews acted superior at times. And so there was a lot of animosity between these two groups. Jesus telling a story to the Jews and making the Samaritan the hero was insulting. And you can see it because the Jewish teacher can't even say the word Samaritan. He won't even say the Samaritan was the right one. He says the man who was the man who had mercy. You know, what's interesting is that Jesus just got back from traveling through Samaria, where he was rejected. If you look in chapter 9 there, it says that as he was traveling through Samaria on his way to Jerusalem, he asks some of the disciples to go ahead of him and set up some places to stay. And none of the Samaritans would allow Jesus to stay in their towns because he was a Jew going to Jerusalem. So Jesus had been discriminated against on his way. And yet it didn't stop him from making those people, those bigots, the hero of the story. It's kind of an amazing tale. It's an amazing thing that Jesus does. Jesus sometimes just seems to purposefully do things that are antagonistic. He wants you to feel uncomfortable. He wants you to feel a little angsty at times. And then he wants you to examine that. So he tells a story. It makes you feel something. Then he says, put yourself in the story. Who are you in the story? Jesus is amazing that way. But that experience with the Samaritans didn't stop him from loving them. Didn't make him hate them anymore. Okay? In this parable, the Levite and the priest were likely on their way to the temple to serve, or they're coming back from the temple of where they were serving. Okay? The Levitical tribe was the only people allowed to serve within the temple. So Jesus is telling a story about people who were servants. They took part of their time, of their private life, and they went to the temple for a period of time to do service. It doesn't really say whether they were on their way there or on their way back, but that's likely the point of the story, is that Jesus picked people that are known as servants and that do serve, okay? He's not picking villains, all right? The villain everyone would have thought was the Samaritan, all right? So they were on their way to the servant or back from the servant to administer there to the people, serving the people. But the problem is that they saw that act of service in the temple as a separate part of their life. That is where we serve. That is where we give. That is the place where we give of ourselves, is at that place. All right? The Samaritan, on the other hand, saw his walk with God as something that's always happening wherever he is. His act of service, his act of worship is happening on this road right now. And when he sees the Samaritan, he sees this as a part of his act of service, as an aspect of his own worship. It is not a separate thing. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Yeah. His service to God and to humankind was not oriented in this place or in that place. His service took place in every place where he was breathing. He did not compartmentalize his walk with God or his identity as a believer, even when it was wildly inconvenient, expensive, and risky. You know, it's pretty easy to get good at managing your spiritual life. You know, you become a Christian, and that is a huge leap right there. It was for me. Becoming a Christian was such a different lifestyle from what I was doing before. And it was mind-boggling and uncomfortable, and I didn't like it most of the time in the beginning. I often questioned why I was doing this at all. But after doing it for 25 years, you kind of get used to it. All right, what was once seemed so weird and abnormal to me before is now what is normal for me now. You know, the idea of hugging total strangers just because they say, hey, bro. Then I'm like, okay, bring it in. You know, you and I, we're on the same page. You know, you want to stay at my house or should I stay at your house? I know we don't know each other, but that's probably going to happen at some point. You know, we serve people and we have very intimate moments with people that we barely know because we carry the same moniker. All right, because we are believers. All of that is so weird, okay? There's so much about this life that is so strange, but no matter how strange a life is, you grow accustomed to it. And just like anything, you can put it into a neat little box that's easier for you to understand, easier for you to manage, and easier for it to become less affecting to your heart. All right? We can put the fellowship in one box, something that's for Sunday mornings, sometimes Wednesday nights, and every once in a while, a retreat. We can put devotion to God in another little box for the morning times, if you wake up early enough. Maybe you have a little box of financial giving for God. That's another little box. And you take these boxes and keep them separate from the boxes that you have in other parts of your life, like maybe your career or your neighborhood or your friends, or the boxes you have for your family life or free time. What the expert in the law desired was a nice, neat box with definable boundaries where his obligations were easy to understand. This is where my obligations begin, and this is where it ends. I don't have to do anything before or after that point. All right, the experts in the law were amazing at explaining boxes. All right, Jesus gave him no boundaries, but he did give him an idea of how truly expansive and all-encompassing the notion of neighbor was. Jesus took the religious expert's little box and destroyed it. Our service to God, our service to his kingdom, our service to one another has no easy limits to mark. Every time I try and make this life as a believer more manageable, it seems like God destroys whatever compartment I've just come up with. You know, it's funny, about 15 years ago, Megan and I were working in a little town called DeKalb, and I've talked about this before, I think, but I was the campus minister at Northern Illinois University. You may have never heard of it before. But in 2008, on Valentine's Day 2008, there was a shooting at the school, and 20 people were shot in a classroom. And it's funny because that day I was at a staff meeting, and they had asked us to move to a different region and to take on a different role within the church. And Megan and I were discussing it on the way home, and then we started getting all these phone calls and these text messages saying there'd been a shooting on campus. And so I got home. Immediately, we began searching for all the students. Like, are all of our students okay? We had, 25 students on campus, so we're calling everybody. Everyone's checking in. Pretty quickly, within an hour, we got a hold of everybody but 2 girls, and so they both lived together. I went over to their apartment. All the roads are blocked off. Police are everywhere. It's hard to call anybody on a cell phone because everybody's calling, so now the cell phone's, it's just overrun. I go over to the apartment. I find the other girl, and then we start waiting for her roommate. An hour turns into hours, and we can't find her. And so I go into her room and I start looking for her schedule. And I find out that she had the class that was shot was the class that she had. So she was in the classroom where the shooting took place. And hours go by. I'm trying to talk to the police. They won't give us any information. Her parents are living in DeKalb. I called Joe up. I said, Joe, I think you should come down here. We should go to the hospital. Joe's her dad. So they come to the hospital. I walk into the hospital, and the dean of student affairs sees me, and, I knew her, so she goes, who are you here for? And I said, Gail Dabowski. Now, she had no idea in that moment that I knew her well. She just knew that I was a campus minister, probably just trying to help out. So she didn't know that this was the girl that babysat her kids. And she goes, she didn't make it. And so I just sit down. And she's like, did you know her? And I was like, yeah, I knew her really well. And she's like, you can't tell her parents. So I walk into a room, her mom and dad are there, and we sit for another hour waiting. And then they come in with some of her effects. Is this your daughter's? And then that's the moment they know. And so, you minister to them in that moment. There's no script for this. You don't know what to say. You hold them. What can you do? They have to go identify the body. We get back to our house, and our 20 students are there waiting to know, is she okay? And we have to tell them, and we tell the rest of the church. For the next 2 weeks, we just have disciples living with us for 2 weeks because they don't want to go back to their dorms. They just want to be together. We have strangers coming into our house, for 2 weeks, and we're just ministering day and night for 2 weeks, and we have the memorial service, and disciples are amazing, of course. Everybody wants to help. It's one of those moments, and it's a super sad moment to describe right there, and yet for the next weeks, you just have Christians all over the planet calling, what can we do to help? Is there anything that we can do? Disciples are amazing. The memorial was incredible. The memorial, there were students on campus that ended up becoming Christians just because of this girl's life, who was amazing. I felt lucky to have been able to play some sort of role during that time because there's so many people that want to help, that want to do something, and there's nothing they can do. Whereas my wife and I, there was so much that we could do in that time. We were able to minister for hours and hours every day. There's just something to do. And I felt lucky for that. And I was so busy, there wasn't any really time to just sit there and think about what had just happened. I had things that I could do. But eventually that all stops. Weeks go by and everybody else's life goes back to normal. You have to go back to work and school starts back up again, and you have to go back to a normal way of life. But you begin to slow down, and now you're starting to think about what just happened. And I can remember, I used to go to Barnes & Noble to plan out the lessons for the week. I would go there on Tuesday, and I would be there for 5 or 6 hours. And I would write my lessons, I would share my faith, I would talk to the people that were there. But it was my day to get some of that stuff done, and I pull up to Barnes & Noble, I'm in my car, and I'm like, I just don't want to go inside. I don't want to hear other people talking about it. I don't want to see a Newsweek magazine with Gail's face on it. I don't want to hear other people's theories about what happened or their stupid opinions about the whole event. I don't want to hear about gun crime. I don't want to hear about politics. I don't want to hear about any of that. I just want to go in and do my work, and I don't want to interact with anybody. I don't want to engage with all of that. As a matter of fact, I just didn't even want to be there. I just wanted to go home and sleep. I didn't want to hear anything about the shooting. I didn't want to hear anything ignorant. I didn't want to be offended by other people's callousness. Everybody else is just moving on, all of that stuff. I certainly didn't want to have to minister to strangers. I didn't want to engage the world as a believer or as a disciple of Jesus. During those days, I wanted to put the world and my time interacting with it into a separate box from being a follower of Jesus. I wanted to just go into a bookstore as a man who needed to get work done and leave behind my calling just for a couple hours of being a follower of Jesus. But that's not how this works. That's not how our lives are supposed to be. We don't ever get to leave behind our calling as a follower of Jesus because it's inconvenient or because it's uncomfortable or because it costs us something, because it pushes us, because it expands all of our boundaries of comfortability. We can't leave it behind. Jesus quotes the same verse from Hosea chapter 6 a couple different times in his ministry. And it says, Hosea 6:6 just says this, "For I desire mercy, not sacrifice, and acknowledgement of God rather than burnt offerings." The word sacrifice, I want to be clear here, isn't a reference to giving something. It's a reference in this case to, honestly, mere ritual. The Jews were commanded to offer sacrifices for of their livestock and from their livelihood or wealth as offerings for their transgressions, for their sin, for their gratitude, for their guilt or for their shame. But over time, what had happened was a complete disconnect from the way that they were living and the offering that they were making. It became more transactional than anything. Well, if I do this, I can just make a sacrifice later. I know maybe this isn't the best thing to do, but I'll deal with it later and I'll make a sacrifice. And all of a sudden, you kind of have this disconnect between what the sacrifice was supposed to mean and how it was supposed to affect the normal day of life. The idea of taking something from your wealth and giving it in the temple was supposed to help you understand in your normal course of life what things cost, What is the cost of sin? What is the cost of shame and guilt? And it was supposed to be a bridge between those two worlds, not a disconnect from those two worlds. We have to make sure that we're not doing that we're disconnecting our religious life and our spiritual life from our life that we live when we go out those doors. Everything we do here is meant to reinforce a bridge between this realm and this plane of spirituality and what happens when we leave these doors. We can't compartmentalize it. We can't cord it off. God intended that sacrifice was supposed to teach something. It was supposed to connect the time a person spent at the temple to their life outside the temple. The sacrifice was not meant to divide. It's likely that moms are the best people in the world to understand this concept. Moms don't ever stop being a mom. They never stop being a mom. There are times in your life when, as a small child, you wanted your mom to come to school. Like you couldn't wait to show off your mom. This is my mom, and you wanted her to be there. And then there were times in your life when you didn't want that. Your mom would be waiting for you outside of school and you just put your head down and, I don't have a mom. I'm one of those humans that doesn't have a mom. This person here is just my chauffeur, okay? Yeah. You didn't want your mom involved with your friends or your private life or your decisions or what you wanted to do. But that doesn't ever affect moms. Like your desire for them wanting to be involved or not rarely affects moms. Moms call you while you're at school. They call you while you're at work. And it's funny because your mom will call you, you'll be in the middle of something, and that matters not at all to them. It just doesn't matter. Those boundary lines don't exist in their minds. All right? They want to know how you're doing wherever you are. They want to be connected to you while you're on vacation even. They have no parameters. Wherever you are is where they are being a mom. I'm 47 years old, and still when my mom sees me, I see her look me up and down to make sure that I'm eating enough, that I'm not limping, that I'm healthy. She was a nurse, and so all of that stuff. There is no jurisdiction for being a mom. Don't compartmentalize your service to God or the service that you are supposed to provide to the world around you. When we walk out of this building, we're not leaving God's country. When you walk out those doors, you're entering his domain. That little parking lot will offer you a chance to truly worship God. It will. Just the minute you walk out, and we're all trying to get in our cars to leave, you will have opportunities to worship God right away. All right, someone cuts you off. What's going to happen? This happens every time you leave church, right? You're in a hurry. You got to go. Some disciples leaving, and then they see someone else. They roll down their window, and they have a conversation while there's a line of 50 disciples behind them waiting to go get lunch, all right? That's happening today. All right, that's going to happen. It's probably going to be MJ. My guess is it's going to be MJ, all right? The moment you're waiting for MJ to finally get his butt out of there, you have a period of time there where you can worship God. You can offer him your patience. You can offer him your kindness. You can offer him your best thoughts in the world. That is going to be your act of worship. You're going to have many opportunities today to worship God. Monday morning at work is your place of worship and sacrifice. When you come home from a long day to your family or your roommates, walking in that door is just like walking in the doors here. It's a moment to give, and it's a moment to prepare to serve. I love coaching. I didn't ever think I would, but I've coached so many of my kids' teams, and it's amazing to me because, and this is going to sound hokey, but coaching has become like a deeply spiritual thing for me. Because I know that in those moments when I'm teaching a kid how to throw a ball or how to pass or whatever it is that I'm doing as a coach, I have the opportunity to have some sort of impact on this child's life for the good. To teach them that there are people in this world that will care about them even if they don't know them. I will have an opportunity to have an impact on their parents, to show an interest in their kids. You know what it does for someone when you love their kids? When you give compliments to their kids, when you shower praise on their kids, what that does to other parents. Coaching to me is it's one of those things that I do. It is church for me. When we have soccer practice, for me, I am now having church. I'm conducting service. I'm saying prayers in my mind the whole time. I'm hoping I can reach out to this family. I'm hoping I can have an impact that's going to somehow make this kid remember when he's older that there are good people out there that care about him, that believe in them. It is an act of worship. So parent-teacher conferences are the same thing. That's some of the highest forms of evangelism I can do, is to walk into that school and be a light to other parents. To be a light to the teacher, not to complain to the teacher. To make that teacher feel like everything they're doing, I'm so grateful for. Yeah. I've never had a teacher I don't like for my kids. I've liked some more than others, all right? But I've liked every single one. I've been grateful to every single one. That's our job as Christians. We walk into that school and we have the ability to give that. That is our service. You know, today, Megan and I are going to go out and buy plants. This is what we do on Mother's Day. We landscape. So we go and buy a bunch of plants, and then I do a lot of digging, and she makes everything look nice, and, you know, that's what we're going to do today. And, you know, here's what's going to happen. We're going to walk into a greenhouse, and this is the thing, like after 5 minutes, I'm immediately exhausted from shopping. You know, I just can't take it. All these flowers, I'm like, I can't even tell the difference between what we're doing here. Like, they all got leaves, and there's some different colors. That's all I can see. But we're going to spend a lot of time choosing the right one, all right? But I know that while we're there, I have the opportunity to be of service, to not ask, when is it time to go? To joyfully say, I think that's an amazing choice of plant. But here's the thing, I'm going to watch my wife. My wife is going to tell, 10 different women that she loves their hair, or she loves their shoes, or like she's going to say, your kids are so beautiful. And so in the midst of how long it takes to buy all the plants, we're also going to get into a lot of conversations with other people as well. You can't compartmentalize who you are. We got to take what we are right here, and it's got to be what we are in every moment of the day. There's plenty of opportunities for service. Every moment outside those doors is a dynamic opportunity to serve in the name of God. So blow up all of your boxes. There is no box. Everything and everywhere is our work and our worship. Amen. Thank you very much.